What's going down, y'all? It's your homie Jay Green, and we got my man
Barry Gaines.
And this is Mission Movie Reviews. And right now, we're about to give y'all a screen classic in The Abyss. Now, I just saw this movie, literally finished it just last night. Okay, my man, he didn't seen it years ago. Now I've seen pieces of it. I knew of it, but there's a lot of stuff coming out. I just never really got around to it. And I'm so happy that I finally watched this movie. It's James Cameron, so it's going to be quality. But once you're getting into it, shit gets like emotional. I'm not gonna lie, I was getting choked up. Almost about to cry.
And these are the movie like was made in 1988, of course, by the famous James Cameron, just like Jay Green said, and it starred Ed Harris as Bud.
You can send down whoever you like, Commodore, but I'm the tool pusher on this rig, and when it comes to the safety of these people, there's me and then there's God, understand?
Mary Elizabeth Mastriano, I always say her name wrong, as Lindsay. And you got my man Michael Biehn, of course, the hero in Terminator, my man, you know what I mean? And he played Lieutenant Coffey. And you had a bunch of other characters in there that were just fantastic. And this came out in 88. And this was a time when, your stories had to come out with a bang. I mean, either you had Schwarzenegger back then, you had Stallone back then, you had Van Damme. Those guys were just coming out with just bangers, and then all their movies start off with explosions, where Abyss was more of this story of a crew of, I think was an underwater miners, you could say, right? And then the government, there was a submarine that went down, and they were the closest to it. So the government said, listen, I know you guys are not like military, but can you go down there and see if anyone survived? And they were like, man, I don't know about this. It's not what we do. We drillers, man. That's all we do. We drill. You know what I mean? So they threw some cats down there, some army guys, some SEALs to help them with this, but they had alternative motives. But with all of this, that's the story. But really, there are some monsters down there. You say aliens down there that just keep coming around, fucking things up. They're doing stuff, and that at the time I think threw people off a little bit by saying it's a good film, but the aliens are here and there and whatever. But when you really look at it now, that's why it's a classic, because just the character development, the action that's in it, the cinematography, just the work that was done underwater. And underwater is slow, so you're going to have to kind of do something to speed it up. But he did. He made that tension, and that's what it was. You may say, well, it's underwater, it's a little slow like space, but what happens with that kind of delay of action, it makes it more, you could say, like tense, because you can't get the things as fast as you can normally because you're underwater resistance. So all these elements in there that was just phenomenal. It did a great job with it, and I think that's why it's a classic.
Yeah. Also, I'll say like the cool thing about certain films that deal with like The Abyss, they're in the water. You look at a movie like Backdraft back in the day, like you got the fire everywhere. If it's a natural disaster movie, it's like sometimes those elements that are not necessarily the focal point of the story. Like if it's a natural disaster movie, people are trying to survive, so you're following them. But whatever's going on in the environment around them is such a looming threat throughout the entire film that it's almost tension-filled everywhere. And in The Abyss, that's how I felt, because I'm not the best swimmer. Let me tell you, I can get from one end of the pool to the other, but it's going to take your homie a cool little minute. You dig?
So he's not saving you.
Constantly, I always think when I'm watching a movie like this where they're in the water, I'm like, damn, could I withstand that cold? Right. Could I actually handle the pressure of being underneath those confined spaces, things of that nature? How are they going to navigate this? So I'm a fish out of water watching that movie, you dig? Yeah. And it's like escapism for me. But at the same time, it's like tense throughout, because everywhere you look, everywhere you turn, how threatening are the aliens, right? How threatening is their situation? Is the rig going to go deeper down into the, you know what I'm saying? Like all these things constantly. But at the same time, it's a quiet, calm, peaceful movie that jumps at you with some hectic ish when it needs to. And you're just along for the ride the entire time. So
no, you're right. I agree, man. I mean, that's what it is, because you're not sure what's going to happen, because you just can't jump out. You're in the water. So there's water all around you. So pretty much it's like a possible way of dying all the time, like all around you, like really fast. And I
Yeah.
think, and also too, a great element in this film, Jay, that I thought was awesome, that really kind of pulled in for me, is the relationship between Bud and Lindsay. That relationship, because no, I mean, if you guys haven't seen it, just go see it. We may spoil something here and there in this conversation because some things just need to be said. So if you haven't seen it, definitely go see it, guys. Where they they're like breaking up, but I love there were moments with James Cameron, being that he's a married man. He put little elements that other people just don't put in, which I love. Like, for example, there's a moment when he is snoring and everything is quiet,
Dude. Oh,
and then she just goes over she tells him she says, Bud, roll over, and he just rolls over, and that's it. Just like I do. I'm a husband. I love that scene, that little moment, those little moments. It's kind of like, it just pulls me in.
So tell me why, when I was like, because I told my wife I was going to watch this movie, right?
Yeah.
And when I finished it, I'm telling her about it. Tell me why that was one of the first things I brought to her, where I was like, for certain things that happen later in the movie,
yeah,
you're going to feel it regardless because you care about these people, right? But for it to hit the way that it hits, and for each person to be able to perform the way they need to perform to really make it as impactful, moment like that, where it's like she could have been sitting anywhere in that little area. He could have been laying anywhere. Remember, they're outs, right?
Yeah.
Something's going on. But he's like comfortable around her. So he's sleeping, he's chilling, right? She's sitting there just kind of pondering what's jumping off. And then just so classic, so swag, like your wife, your girlfriend, whoever is going to be like, hey man, you just roll over. Like, what's going on here? Not even a big deal about it. And he does it. And yeah, it was such a real moment. And I was telling my wife, right? You don't have to put that in there. We don't need to know that this dude snores. Right. It's those small things that make movies great.
Right, it really pulls you in the character. Right, I mean, it makes it relative. I mean, relative, I should say. And it's exactly. That always stuck with me. I was like, that's like you said, the way it hit, the way he made it hit. Because like you said, they could be anywhere because they're on their way out. But you know what? I think she knew. I guess it's just maybe innate. Like she's more comfortable just being by him. He's being more comfortable by being by her because they were together for a while.
Even early on, what I liked is again, the great filmmakers and the greatest films, they lay little breadcrumbs to let you know where someone's head is really at without actually saying what's jumping off. They show, they don't tell. You dig?
Right.
And so when she shows up on the ship, you could tell she's like another thing. Let me finish this thought first.
Sure.
She shows up on the ship. She's clearly a badass. People, all the men are like kind of intimidated around her in one way or another. You dig? Because she don't play no games. And the way that Ed Harris and her kind of interact in the beginning, you could tell there's a little bit of some ruffled feathers going on. Right. And at one point he gets flustered and he throws his ring like in the toilet.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Forget this, whatever. Look,
I love that.
Throws that ring in the toilet. And then like a little minute later, seconds later, whatever, he goes back and fishes that ring out of the toilet. And it's like, just by doing that, where his mind and where his heart is truly at. He's going to act a type of way in front of his boys.
Right.
But deep inside, where he's really at. And they just leave it like that, and the movie goes on.
Yeah, that's what I loved about it. And you could tell, and what I loved about it too was that it wasn't like both of them wanting to get back with each other. I love, like you said, I love the fact that Ed Harris's character, Bud, still loves her. Like he still wants to be with her anyway, She's already moved on. You know what I mean? Because remember, he was talking about like somebody she was watching talking about, that she was already seeing. So she already kind of moved on, you know what I mean? And then on top of that, too, if you guys, also in the movie, she's the one that designed the rig that they on. So she's kind of like an engineer genius, you know what I mean? So, an engineering genius. And so, so this clash that they have was more to do, and you find, and what I like, and like you said, Jay, without actually saying it, it did say a little bit, but this just by like the emotion of it, like their way of doing things, they, you can see, what was I saying? Oh, you can see that, it didn't really have to be that way. It was just circumstances. And there's a way Bud felt. And then they would give, like you said, they give me breadcrumbs of like what was going on in the relationship. Like, why did it get this way? And you see these little things, And I love the way that they introduced the audience to their relationship right away with, what was it, Hippie. when he was sitting there, he was like, you know what? She's about to come on board. Bud is like, oh God, I hate this bitch. And then Hippie goes around and says, well, you shouldn't have married her then, huh? And I was like, oh, that's how you introduced it. I like that. You know, it was a nice little fun part on it. So no, that's what's so great. So as you see, everyone, you know, Jay and I were talking about like character, because that's what it really was about. It's about these characters trying to get through this whole ordeal. And then the other part are the aliens. And the alien part to me in the film with Abyss was more like a lesson to us all. It was almost like a kind of a PSA of just being of understanding that, you know, how little we are in the universe, how like sensitive we are to everything, and how we have to kind of this, you know, love one another and be together, work together. And how James did that was something that wasn't even, what can I say? What's the word, Jay? Like that you know, I'm not, if you haven't seen it, tough. We'd have to say it. They don't really say anything. It's the actions. Right. You know what I mean? And you can tell what they're doing. You know what I mean? If you haven't seen it, go see it. Jay, what do you think? What else do you think they could say about the movie?
Yeah. So I also want to say, I want to give shine to Michael Biehn. I mean, right?
Oh yeah, right. Well, how can we forget a man?
Who don't love Michael Biehn? You dig?
Right.
But what for me, again, like I said, I just barely watched this movie, but I've seen Michael Biehn in Aliens. Yeah. I'm trying to think. I know I've seen him in a bunch of other stuff, but I've never seen him like he was in here. He was a tough guy in here because he was like on the military side. But when he's down there, you know, in the tight confines of the ship and the rig and all that sort of stuff, and then the alien situation starts to really pop up, you start seeing this dude start to lose it in the sense of like, he's really fearful. He's really trembling and he's like nervous. And when you're used to seeing someone play the tough guy, and then now they're playing someone very emotionally vulnerable in a sense, right? Scared in a sense, willing to do whatever they got to do just to protect probably just themselves. You could give a care less about anybody else. That's true. Like, I love that type of acting. You know what I'm saying? I love when someone can like play opposite what they're used to playing. That's like super dope to me. The other thing too is, speaking to the water, the set, like, how are you maneuvering the camera so smooth, so well around all of this sort of stuff? It's like, this is obviously stuff that had him practicing for Avatar. You know what I'm saying? And then when you see the effect of the alien in the water and how the alien's using the water and whatnot, that's obviously the precursor to Terminator 2. You know what I mean? So James Cameron's always been an innovator when it comes to like Hollywood technology. And this movie is like showcasing those beginnings, I feel.
No, it is. Yeah, you can see it because, you know, he has, like, you know, I think you mentioned he does have a style. He has a swag to him. And then when you see that look, and I tell you what the look is, for me, is always the blue light. He always was one of the first Hollywood directors to put blue light to represent darkness. So you can see it. But Terminator itself, from then on, you always see blue and as nighttime. Terminator 2 was a big one on that. Even in his avatars now, what are they, blue, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So that's like his signature piece. And he's one of those first people that said, let's use that. And then all of a sudden it just went rampant and everyone uses blue. So that was part of it. So anyway, that you'll see that in Abyss, which is great. That's his style. And it's just so many things you can say about this film that people you have to say this was done in '88 and it still holds up. Storyline, visual effects, of course, was the very first in the beginning of CGI, and it did really, really well. And I think, and to go back to Michael Biehn real quick, Jay, that you were saying, I think that was his best role. You know, and to me, I think it was probably one of Ed Harris's, if not Ed Harris's best role. I really do.
Oh man. Again, I ain't trying to spoil that, but towards the end when he's like really, you know, doing a little something, I'm right there with him. I'm like, the way that it was filmed and then it kind of calms down and then it ramps back up, Ed Harris brought that shit for real.
Abyss, people out there, tell us, what do you think? So this is our edition of Mission Movie Reviews Class. Screen Classics. You see, this is our second video together. And this is the rockiness that we have. So we're still learning it out. So thank you so much for being patient with us, everyone. I'm Barry Gaines.
Jay Green.
And we'll see you on the next Mission Movie Reviews. Peace.
Holla.